Picture closing on your dream house, and instead of a welcome mat waiting at the door, there's an envelope, a warning from someone who says he's watched that house for generations. Derek and Maria Broaddus thought they'd found paradise for their 3 kids, a 6-bedroom Dutch Colonial on Boulevard, in the quiet tree-lined town of Westfield, New Jersey. In June of 2014, they closed on a house for $1.35 million, the home they had dreamed about and saved for, finally, completely theirs. Before they'd slept a single night inside it, an envelope showed up in their mailbox. No return address, just their names, typed neatly, and one chilling title. Dear new owner, it began in careful typed letters. That single page would haunt this family for the next 5 years, and it hadn't even reached the strangest part yet. The writer claimed the house had pulled him in since he was a boy. He called it 657 Boulevard, the exact address printed on their new deed. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Nobody could answer that yet, but someone clearly thought they should be afraid to. He signed the letter simply, The Watcher. Not a name, a role, as if watching this particular family had always, quietly, been his job. The letter used private nicknames for the previous owners, small, specific details a random stranger shouldn't casually happen to know. Then came the line that turned a strange prank cold. The Watcher demanded to know why young children were being brought into his house at all. I need to know who is going to be living in this house, he wrote. I need to know what young blood will be sacrificed. Derek called the police that same week. They opened a case, but with no fingerprints, no DNA, and no obvious suspects, there wasn't much yet to chase. The family delayed moving in, telling themselves it had to be a bitter old neighbor or a cruel prank. Then a second letter arrived. This one was worse. The Watcher described the empty rooms in exact detail, as if he'd been standing quietly inside them only hours earlier. Once I know their names, I will call them and draw them to me, he wrote, and see how far I can spread the family around the neighborhood. He asked which bedroom each child would sleep in, so he'd know, in his own chilling words, exactly where to find them at night. For a family that hadn't even unpacked their furniture yet, this stopped being a strange prank. It was a threat, folded neatly and mailed. Maria started driving past the empty house at odd hours, staring at the dark windows, wondering if someone inside was staring back at her. Her children kept asking why they couldn't move into the house they'd already picked bedrooms in. Maria didn't have an answer that wouldn't terrify them. A third letter followed within weeks. The Watcher wrote that the house had called him the way it once called his father and his father's father before that. It has been the way for the past 2 decades now, and now the time has come for the 3rd generation to watch and wait, he wrote. That was a phrase no outsider should have known, a detail suggesting this wasn't some random stranger who'd simply picked their address off a map. The letters even describe renovations the family had only just begun, work that wasn't visible at all from the sidewalk or the street. That detail frightened Maria more than any single threat had. It meant this wasn't guesswork. Someone was seeing things that should have stayed hidden. The family hired private investigators who quietly questioned neighbors, contractors, and former owners, hunting for anyone with a motive tied to that address. One name kept resurfacing in whispers around Westfield, an older man on the same street, rumored to have an unusual fixation on the house next door. He was questioned by investigators. He denied everything outright. Handwriting samples were compared to the letters, but nothing ever held up as solid proof. DNA testing on the envelopes and stamps came back inconclusive. Handwriting experts even disagreed with each other. Whoever wrote those letters had covered his tracks carefully. More letters kept arriving anyway, spaced out like he had all the time in the world to wait. You wonder who the Watcher is? Turn around, idiot, read one. The family legally couldn't sell the house without disclosing the letters to any buyer. And who exactly wants to purchase a home with a stalker attached to its deed? They couldn't bring themselves to live there either. Every window suddenly felt like it faced both outward and inward at once. The dream had become deadweight. In 2015, the Broadduses sued the previous owners, claiming they'd known about the watcher's letters beforehand and said nothing during the sale. The lawsuit pulled the whole strange case into the public record. Journalists gained access to the actual letters for the very first time. A private family's quiet nightmare became a national headline almost overnight. Reporters descended on Westfield, knocking on doors up and down the street. Local real estate agents said homebuyers now specifically asked about 657 Boulevard, worried some other watcher might be hiding on their own street too. True crime forums built entire theories about who the watcher could be: a lonely obsessive, a bitter relative, maybe even someone inside the family itself. Investigators never fully ruled that last theory out. But years of careful digging never turned up anything solid enough to point a finger at anyone. The Broadduses seriously considered demolishing the house, splitting the lot into two smaller homes just to erase 657 Boulevard from existence entirely. Neighbors objected loudly, unwilling to see the street's historic character changed over a mystery that, honestly, might never actually get solved. So the demolition plan quietly died, and the house just sat there, empty, slowly decaying, while lawyers argued and the odd letters still occasionally arrived. 5 long years after buying their dream home, the family finally sold 657 Boulevard in 2019 for $400,000 less than they had paid. They walked away from a home meant to be forever, having never once slept there. Not because of fire, not because of flood, because of letters. The new owners moved in anyway, betting that whoever wrote them had long since lost interest or moved away. No new letters have surfaced publicly since. But the case itself was never closed. No arrest was ever made. No confession ever came. The watchers simply stopped writing or found a quieter way to watch. In 2022, the story reached millions more people through a dramatized television series, though the real family says the fiction took heavy liberties with their actual lives. Investigators hired privately by the family still believe a local wrote those letters, someone patient, hidden in plain sight, deeply familiar with that one specific street. Handwriting samples from certain neighbors were reportedly a close match, according to old court filings. But close has never once been enough to file a criminal charge. Which means somewhere in Westfield tonight, someone likely still knows exactly who wrote those letters and has kept that secret quietly for over a decade now. Some true crime researchers believe the watcher enjoyed the power more than any actual violence, the quiet thrill of being feared from a distance. Picture that house today. New owners, new curtains hanging in the windows, and somewhere out there, the man who once called himself its guardian for 3 generations. He promised the house was calling him back, the same way it once called his father before him. If that's true, his watch was never meant to end. Maybe he's simply grown old and gone quiet. Or maybe he just found a way to keep watching that leaves behind no fingerprints at all. Every locked door assumes nobody is already inside your walls, already reading your mail before you do, already choosing which window to watch tonight. The Broaddus family lost their dream house to a stranger's obsession and never received a single real answer in return. Some mysteries simply go quiet, and quiet, in a case exactly like this one, has never once actually meant safe. If this made you glance twice at your own front windows tonight, subscribe, because the unexplained never really stops watching, even after you turn off the light.